Hello and welcome to SIt Down Sagas, our one-on-one interview series where I sit down with a member of our community and we discuss their journey in and through the world of Magic the Gathering. Today we are joined by the wonderful Anna Margaret, so get yourselves comfortable and let's jump straight into the interview.
So hi, my name's Anna Margaret. I'm a content creator and cosplayer and scientist, and I love making things and sharing all of my nerdy interests online. I like to joke that my content is really nerdy lifestyle because I love to create things that align with my passions and my interests, and those often center around really nerdy things like TCGs and games and all cosplaying for my favorite media, and I just have a lot of fun with that. And so you can find me everywhere on the internet at It's Anna Margaret, and I have a lot of fun.
Wonderful, thank you. So before we jump into talking about your journey in Magic the Gathering, you mentioned like you like to do content about your interests and YouTube videos, and you do cosplays. What's some of your kind of favorite topics that you like to talk about outside of Magic?
I think that trading card games in general are really fun for me. So I kind of fell down the rabbit hole with Magic the Gathering a few years ago. But growing up, I was really into Pokemon and I played Yu-Gi-Oh as well. And so I am so drawn to beautiful artwork. Mm-hmm. And so if there's a card game where I'm really interested in the art, or I feel like the mechanics are interesting, I'm willing to try almost anything. I recently started playing Flesh and Blood, and I love the artwork of Flesh and Blood. I love the really in-depth strategy, and I have a very vibrant local scene near me, and so I've had a lot of fun kind of exploring this new trading card game. And kind of similarly to that, I just recently discovered Universes, which is another kind of a collectible card game that has a lot of different IPs, and they're IPs that I love. I was definitely that girl that was super into anime when I was young, and so the fact that Universes pulls in a lot of those animes like Cowboy Bebop, has My Hero Academia, and then they recently announced that Critical Role is coming, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I'm super interested. So those are some other like fun things that I've been really interested in. But I also I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I love Star Trek, I love Doctor Who, I love Babylon 5, like so many of those kind of fun sci-fi series. I joke that if it's a campy sci-fi series, I'm probably obsessed with it. And so I love to do cosplay from those different fandoms and IPs, as well as different like comic book characters. And so I think that when I'm faced with something that really inspires me, I want to create. I want to do something with it, whether that's telling a story, making a costume, chatting about how much I love it. And so I find that while my interests often vary, I'm really inspired by other people's creative work and artwork in media, and it ignites a passion in me to also want to create. And so I feel like that's kind of where my interest gets drawn.
Amazing, yeah. I too am a very big kind of sci-fi nerd. Mine's more kind of the horror sci-fi side of things, because that's kind of where I am with like what I do with tabletop, and when I GM stuff, that's very much horror sci-fi. But yeah, anything sci-fi, I'm straight in there.
Okay, wait, do you have like a favorite sci-fi novel?
Ooh, I mean, it would be wrong for me not to say Dune, because I'm the project manager
Dune,
for the
I love Dune.
Yeah, I'm the project manager for the role-playing game, so it's like I cannot not say Dune.
That's amazing. Dune was one of those fun ones where like lots of my friends had read it, but I'd never read Dune. And then I was dating somebody in college, and he was like flabbergasted that I hadn't read it, and literally mailed me a copy and was like, this, you need to read this. And he was right, I loved it. But I think my favorite, I love Contact by Carl Sagan. Okay. I love both the novel and the book. Oh, sorry, novel and the movie. They're both great, but the novel's particularly good. Carl Sagan is just so inspiring, and I love his writing and his kind of voice and ways that he shares science, but also science fiction. But then another one I really like that I don't know if many people have read, but they should, is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This is one of those soapboxes I'll die on. I love Twilight. And she wrote The Host, which is this great sci-fi romance. I thought it was phenomenal. And I've convinced convinced my dad to read it, a few of my dad's friends who also love sci-fi, and it's a phenomenal novel. So this is my little mini hill I'll die on, that The Host is a really fantastic sci-fi romance that everybody should read.
Okay. I'll take your recommendation. I will have to check it out.
Add it to the list.
Yes.
Add it to the ever-growing to-read list.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, definitely ever-growing, but I'll add it to the list and we'll see. I'll give you some feedback after I've read it.
Okay, let me know what you think.
Yes. Okay, so let's dive into kind of the real crux of why we're here. Magic the Gathering. It is a trading card game that, some of our viewers may have heard of. It's primarily the reason why we're sat here today. So what I'd like to know, kind of to start off this kind of journey, is what was, rather than jumping straight into like your first time playing and buying Magic cards and getting into it, but what was your kind of first interaction with Magic? What was your first kind of touch point into knowing it existed?
So, it's interesting because I've thought back and I feel like there's many moments in my life when I could have bumped into Magic. I got really into playing the game Dominion. And so it's a card game, but kind of more along the lines of board games, but it's still a deck building and engine building game. And I got really into Dominion starting in 2007. And so I played Dominion and I played way too much online Dominion. I don't even want to talk about it. When I worked for an electrochemical company, I just played so much online Dominion. And so there's moments where I feel like while I was playing that at my game store or with different friends that I probably saw it, but I really have no memory of interacting with Magic really until just over 2 years ago, when my friends who were really into Magic were like, you would love this. We know you and you love artwork and board games. You'll pick board games purely for their artwork, which I do. I've literally bought a game oh yeah, this looks beautiful. And they're like, have you done any research? Have you read the reviews? I was like, no, but it's really pretty. I'm sure I'll love it. And I have. I've been right almost every time. I think you can judge a board game by its artwork, but soapbox for another day. But they told me, they're like, you would really love this game. You'd love the art. You'd love the mechanics. It feels really similar to Dominion and these games that we already know you like. You'd be really into it. So they bought me a pre-con and I played a game and I thought, okay, yeah, this was fun. They weren't wrong. This was pretty cool. The mechanics were interesting, but I wasn't really pulled in or drawn to it. Then I saw the trailer for the Crimson Vow set with Olivia Crimson Bride, and I was just like, what? Who is she? Do I want to be her? Do I want her to marry me? Or I don't know, what's happening? And I was just absolutely obsessed and enthralled by this trailer. I did some more research and I started doing some digging into the lore of Innistrad. And I was like, this is really cool. And I was a little bit late to the game. And so then I was like, okay, this is really neat. I think I do want to cosplay her and I want to do a little bit more research into the game. So I started putting together an Olivia Crimson Bride cosplayer, playing a little more, and then right about that time, the soundtrack for the Streets of New Capenna came out. Oh my goodness. I've done competitive swing dancing since I was about 15 years old. Oh. I love ballroom, I love dance, and the Streets of New Capenna being demon mobsters with angels and this beautiful soundtrack by Jonathan Young. And I was like, what? It was the coolest thing. I have gotten songs from that soundtrack, the Streets of New Capenna soundtrack, played at swing dancing events all over Colorado because I became so obsessed with this soundtrack, with the story. I loved drafting New Capenna. My sister and I threw a whole card draft party where we made themed drinks. We all dressed up as flappers. It was so much fun. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I really like this game. It's more than just a game. It's a whole ecosystem for creating. There's this story that was really interesting. I loved the soundtrack. I loved the costumes. And so I feel that was the point where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be really into this. And so it worked out perfectly. I'm so lucky that soon after that, a convention reached out to me and asked if I would be a cosplay guest at a Magic convention at a Command Fest, which are kind of smaller Magic events here in the States that different companies can run around. Mm-hmm. And so there was one on the West Coast, somewhat close to where I live. And so they had me out and It was a little terrifying because that event was the very first time I'd ever played Magic with somebody I didn't directly know. That wasn't my immediate family or one of my close friends who had either purchased the deck for me or I knew very well. And so I remember walking into the room dressed as, I think I was Tasha the Witch Queen that first day. I don't remember. But I remember I walked into the room and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Like, what's happening? And then I'm so thankful that everyone I interacted with that weekend was so kind and so friendly. And I think it really emphasized to me the community aspect of Magic. So long story short, I really think that the community and the artwork is what really drew me into Magic. And I think why I still love being a part of it.
Okay. I think as well, I mentioned this on one of the podcasts we do on this channel, which is Cocktails and Counterspells. When I got into Magic, I got into it in like two parts. I bought cards going, ooh, the artwork looks great, and then they went on a shelf and sat there forever. And then when I fully like really got into it, it was actually Crimson Vow as well. When I fully
Really? Yeah, it's Olivia Crimson Bride. Like that trailer, you're like,
that trailer is amazing. I do remember that. Yeah, it was good. But yeah, interesting that we both kind of jumped in at very similar points.
yeah, actually, that's kind of wild. That's super fun. Good time. Yeah. Clearly, this is, and if you're not into Magic yet, now's the moment. You can say that this is yours.
Yes.
Murders at Karlov Manor can be your intro.
Yes. And what a great place to kind of jump in as well on that kind of murder mystery Clue. Like there's the Clue board game version that's coming out as well. Like,
are you as excited as I am for that? Because I'm very excited.
Yes. Yeah. It all comes out around payday, and it's just like, yeah, there we go. That's just all my money gone. Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, so you kind of touched on the next question that I want to ask, and that is, now that you're in deep with Magic the Gathering, and you're kind of really ingrained in the community and everything, during your time within this global phenomenon that is Magic the Gathering, kind of how have you found your experience so far, within the wider community and within the close-knit communities that you have and you're a part of? What's the general vibe been? How have you kind of perceived it?
I think this is a really interesting question. And I think that as somebody who, like I mentioned to you, I've been doing full-time content creation longer than I've played Magic. And so I do feel like I've had the opportunity to be a part of a lot of really awesome communities. I think that I'm very much a part of like the Star Trek fandom. I've worked as a party princess for about 6 years. And so going as different characters to corporate events or birthday parties. And so I've been into anime for a long time. So I still do a lot of anime conventions. I'll be like a cosplay guest, or I'll run their cosplay contests. And so I've been involved in a lot of different communities. And I have to say, something that I think that really sets the Magic the Gathering community apart is just how welcoming I feel like the community is. I think that a big part of Magic the Gathering is the gathering part. And so I think most people want to play Magic with you. They want to get to know you, to chat, to have fun, to have these positive experiences. And I'm really happy to be involved in a community like that, in a community where you might not, but more times than not, you'll have a really positive time. As long as you have a constructive Rule Zero conversation, like generally it's a really good experience. And so I think I'm really impressed with the people who are involved in Magic. And I think it's generally really awesome collection of people that come together to kind of share in this activity. And so I think the gathering part is really strong, and it's my favorite part of Magic. And so I think that's really positive.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of the parts of Magic that has kind of drawn me in the most and kept me in. Apart from the absolutely stunning artwork that gets put on some of these cards, and it's like it still blows my mind that we have these works of fine art that exist in Magic that are only like what 2 inches by 1 inch in size, that should be on gallery walls. But yeah, the community side of it is just so welcoming, so warm. Yeah, I will definitely agree with you there that it's probably one of the best parts I've found with Magic as well. Yeah. But as a game, because we definitely spoke about community being the number one element here, but as a game, let's get into kind of the thick of the game itself, because I know people want to know these questions or know these answers to these questions. Firstly, what's your favorite part of the game of Magic? You know, is there a specific format you're drawn to? Play the most? Is there a style? Is there anything, you know, in terms of the game, what's your favorite kind of part of it?
Yeah. So I already mentioned community, so I'm going to set that one aside because I think that is definitely one of my favorites. Mechanically, I really enjoy both playing and deck building. And I think that's something that I really enjoy about Magic, is that in some of the more social formats, there's just tons of creativity in your deck building. And so I've been really enjoying Oathbreaker lately. Okay. And so Oathbreaker is a format very similar to Commander, and that you're building around a particular card, or in Oathbreaker's case, cards that set the color identity of the deck. But in Oathbreaker, you have a Planeswalker and a signature spell. And the Oathbreaker games, they're a little faster. They are smaller. They're not 100 card decks. They're still singleton though. So they're akin to Commander. It's akin to Commander, but a little different. And I really enjoy building decks. I think it's really fun to just like get a glass of wine or like a cup of coffee and like sit down and lay a bunch of cards out on the table and get to put together a deck, be it an Oathbreaker deck or a Commander deck. And so I really enjoy that. I think that something that I didn't expect to really like is I didn't know how much I would enjoy kind of more competitive formats as well. And so there's something called the VML, which is a competitive league for marginalized genders that I've been involved with. And so I've played more standard than I ever kind of pictured myself playing. And I realized that I had a lot of fun in kind of those high stakes environments as well. And so I think that maybe if I had to pick like one or two, I think deck building I find really fun. I like the creativity of trying to find synergies and paths to victory and kind of upgrading and working and tuning a deck. But then I also really enjoy a challenging game where I have to think through, what am I going to do? And sometimes that happens in Commander games, sometimes that happens in competitive games. But you know, when you leave a game and you're like, wow, that was really cool. Like their deck did the thing. Did you see how they did that? Or like, oh my gosh, my deck did the thing. I love those moments where you can like see something work out. I think that those are kind of my two favorite parts mechanically of the game.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, it's the number one strategy game in the world. But yeah, like most people think, oh, strategy, where's the fun in that? But it really is, isn't it? Like
I think it's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, like the strategy of building a deck, hoping that it does the thing you want it to do, and then actually playing the deck and it doing the thing you want it to do is like rewarding on two levels. Like you built it and it works, but then you actually got to see it work as well.
Exactly. And sometimes it doesn't work. But I feel like that's a beautiful opportunity for growth and self-reflection. Yes. You might have to cut some pet cards. I know I'm like, oh, but it's so pretty. And, you know, there's moments. But I think that part can also be really fun. Definitely. Kind of iterating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like that. I have several decks where it's like, I love the deck. It's like, but I have a pile of upgrades. And the cutting of cards to put the upgrades in is the hardest challenge I've faced.
Yeah. I feel like some sort of there's certain commander decks that I find are kind of maybe my forever decks. And they're decks where every time a new set comes out, I might try to swap in a few new cards that fit really well. One of them is my Ginny Faye deck. I really love Ginny Faye. She's one of my favorite commanders. And she's from the streets of New Capetta, to no one's surprise. And she makes dog and cat tokens. And so I was immediately drawn to her. I've cosplayed her. And that's a deck where every time a new set comes out, I love to stick some new cards in. And it becomes more difficult to then decide what to pull. But I think it's then a fun thing you can look forward to every set of like, how am I going to upgrade this? Like, what am I going to do? What cards do I want to slot in? And I enjoy kind of that iteration, or like different life cycles that decks see and kind of change over time.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the deck itself goes from like being an infant to an adult as the sets progress forward. And then it gets really old, and then you retire it and build a new one.
No, don't say that. I'm not ready to retire that deck. No.
Well, they
have long lives. They're like elves.
Ish.
I guess, but yeah, some decks are like fruit flies. You like build it and you're like, okay, cool. Now I'm done. Taking this one apart.
Yeah, I've done that too many times to count, where it's like, I'll try it, I'll build it. No, that didn't work. Never mind. We'll use those up.
Well, exactly. And I feel like there's sometimes where you might build a deck and it might feel really exciting in the moment, but then as you play it, it might not evoke the play pattern or the type of game experience that you're looking for. I know that I'm sometimes drawn to really mean strategies because I love blue as a color, and I just like, sometimes I'm like, ooh, but like, should I put all the counter spells? What if I make this extra turn stack? And there's just like sometimes though when you're like, is this a fun deck for the people to play with me? And sometimes they're not. And those decks don't stick around. Those are the decks I take apart, because ultimately that play experience is the most important part to me. And I want people to enjoy playing with me. But sometimes you build a deck and you're like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, it's like my Atraxa Infect deck. I love it, but I don't think anyone else does. And so it doesn't really get played.
Yeah, that's like me and my Shield of the Apocalypse.
See, you understand. You may love it, but I'm not sure anybody else does.
My favorite deck, but I never last long because I am target number 1. So,
but see, at least you know that. You recognize that you're the see, I think it's okay to be the problem as long as you acknowledge that you're the problem. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm not the threat. Like, no, that's not true. You know you're the threat. And I try to always be transparent. Like, if I'm going to move towards something really bad, I'm like, hey, so I'm going to attempt to do this. Like, this will happen. You feel free to try to step in or stop me or do whatever you need to.
Yeah, I definitely do that. One little thing I do with if I have a deck which is a problem deck, shall we say, that I know my friends when I play with them are just like, oh no, not that one again, which is usually Shieldred or Toxrill the Corrosive.
Oh my gosh, that one.
Yeah. But what
that card.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my commanders. It's horrible. But what I do just to keep the playing field even is every turn I will count out loud how much mana I have and count down to when I'm able to cast Toxrill, so that all my friends are like, okay, we're prepping now.
You're like, there's no surprises. This isn't gonna be snuck out. You're gonna know. But yeah. Then it becomes almost like a game. Like, how can they stop you before it hits? Like
the countdown to inevitability. But you mentioned blue, so this leads me to my next question, which is favorite color or colors of Magic to play.
Yeah, I'm really bad at picking favorites. This is something that's been true for me for forever. Like, I like lots of things, and I so struggle to like pick a favorite. Like if you ask me, who's your favorite Doctor in Doctor Who? I'm like, oh, it's definitely 10, except for when it's 11 or 9 or maybe 13. Okay, wait, no, but now that 14's around and David Tennant's back, like definitely 14. So like I've never been great at picking favorites, but I do notice that like in the number, I like building decks, either physical decks, but also I love drafting hypothetical decks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll like put on Moxfield ideas that I have or different decks. And so looking at kind of the different decks that I build or that I tend to gravitate to, I found that I really like blue and white. And so I like building white decks, I like building blue decks, but then I guess I have a lot of decks too that break that mold. And my Kibo deck or Jenny Faye has a lot of, green or red.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I feel like it's like hard to pick, like, what's your my favorite color in real life is pink. That's easy. That's been true since I was like maybe 2. But in Magic, I feel like it's trickier. But I think if I had to pick, I would either say white or blue.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. If you like told me like right now, one color at this exact moment, I think I'd say white. But I also know that I was just chatting with somebody not too long ago about this and I said blue. So I'm just spreading misleading information all over the internet about my favorite colors in Magic, but I'm thinking probably white or blue.
But then the next set will come out and there'll be some like green, red and black cards in there that you'll be like, oh my God, these are amazing. And you'll change anyway.
See, now you understand. Because like for a while I was like, oh, it must be black. Black must be my favorite. But it was because of vampires. And as soon as like we moved on to other sets, I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe I just really like vampires. Like maybe I just really like, Liliana. And then I was like, okay, but I've built a lot of white decks. And so then I was like, oh, it's probably white. But then I realized that the decks I was playing the most were decks with blue. Like I had a blue-white blinking into the dungeon deck I was playing all the time. I had a lot of Grixis decks. I was like really leaning towards kind of that spell slinging strategy. And I guess that's another way to kind of a direction to take it, like more than just the cards that draw me in, the play pattern of like spell slinging and having storm count is very much my style of play. And I think that's reminiscent of other board games I'm really into as well. Like I really enjoy engine building games. I love engine building games like Wingspan, Emerge, Terraforming Mars, like all of those, like I'm obsessed. I love Wingspan so much that my family, we have copies of Wingspan at my house, my parents' house, and my parents' cabin, just because we like it so much. It's like, you don't want to haul it back and forth. We've got like Wingspan copies everywhere. I recently I backed the Kickstarter a while ago, but you know how things kind of like sit on your shelf and you like forget about them? Maybe it's just me. Like it's out of sight, just out of mind. It's gone forever. And so I discovered not too long ago, maybe a few months ago, Flamecraft, which is a game I had backed on Kickstarter. That's a cute little like dragons in a apothecary engine building game. And I was like, this is the most fun. Again, engine building. So that kind of engine building theme is something I love. And so I think that blue is more representative of the type of play pattern I gravitate to. So never mind. I've changed my answer again. Blue. We're going to stick with what I said the first time. It's blue.
Okay.
You're like, sure, I believe you totally, Anna Margaret.
If you change your mind after this interview, let me know and I'll edit in the correct
Okay, good. I don't want to spread false information.
So we'll say blue for the next several minutes. Yeah. Now you've mentioned a couple of specific card names. In terms of commanders, do you have a favorite couple commanders you like to play, or is there some new commanders that you've seen recently that you want to build around, or is there some old ones that you kind of really just like to go back to?
Really like? Okay. Well, I mentioned Jenny Faye. Yes. I think she's one of my very favorite commanders, and I play her all the time. I recently played my Jenny Faye deck on Shuffle Up and Play, and I just had so much fun being like, look at my beautiful deck. I love this deck. And so I really like that deck. Another one of my favorite commanders is Myra the Magnificent. So she's an SIt commander that came from the Infinity set that deals with attractions. And so I really like attractions. I know they're a smidge contentious, but I think that it's a really fun mechanic. And so I have a Myra Infinite Turns deck that I'm a huge fan of. And I really enjoy it. It's a CEDH deck, so I recognize that it's a little bit too much. And so I made it even more too much. And so I have a lot of fun with that deck. Let's see. I think if I had to pick maybe like talking about a new old commander. So I really like Secret Lair. I really love Secret Lairs. And I had been like eyeing Atla Polani for a while. I thought she was a super cool commander. I was really interested in building it. And then they just came out with the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World Secret Lairs, and they have an Ian Malcolm Atla Polani. And so actually I haven't done it yet, but I was behind from the holidays on a bunch of projects I needed to finish. And I wrote myself a note and I'm like, when I'm caught up, when I get these done, I get to build my Atla Polani deck. So that is the current kind of fun thing I'm working on. And so I think those ones are notable that I'd point out. I think one other that has really captured my attention lately, and I've just been really thinking about, is I really loved the Doctor Who set. I think that the Doctor Who set was phenomenal. I was obsessed. I made I'd have to count now on my Instagram, but I think I made like 9 different Doctor Who looks. I had so much fun. It was like 2 of my favorite things, Magic and Doctor Who swishing together in just the most beautiful way. And Gavin and the whole team did such an amazing job making the cards feel so thematic and so perfect for the set. And I've been really loving the 60th anniversary specials, the 3 episodes where David Tennant and Catherine Tate came back, as well as the 15th Doctor being absolutely phenomenal. And so I'm really looking forward to that Secret Lair coming to my house whenever it comes, because I pre-ordered it, and I will build my Oops All Doctors 14th Doctor deck with all the Doctors, and then I will be such a problem. I think that it was like when Galadriel came out in a Magic card, and I was such a problem. I was dressed as Galadriel at almost every event I did, even non-Magic events. I have 3 different Galadriel decks I built for 3 of her 4 different variations. I still need to finish the mono green one. I haven't done that one yet. I have like 2 giant Galadriel cards. So it became like my whole personality, and still kind of is, because Galadriel was one of my childhood obsessions, reading Lord of the Rings. And so that'll be my Oops All Doctor deck for me too. So I think those are some of my favorites right now. But again, favorites are hard. And if I keep talking, I'll pick like 12 more. So we're just going to stop it here and say those ones.
Okay. I'll take that. Okay, so we've talked about favorites. We've talked about community. We've talked about how you've entered Magic. So now the question is like looking towards the future, and looking ahead. I'd like to know where you see yourself going in Magic the Gathering, in this sphere, this kind of global community that Magic is. Now that you're kind of fully involved, shall we say, in the community, in the content creation and in the game and playing it, kind of where do you see this path before you leading, or where would you like to see it leading?
Yeah, so I think that something I've noticed about content creation that's different than many other careers I've had is that there's a lot that isn't in your control. And I think that that's both good and bad. I think in some ways, the fact that I wasn't in control of the exact path that my career in content creation would take means that I've done a lot of things that I would have never dreamed of, because I didn't even think they were possible. I didn't even have like the ability to dream it, if that makes sense. I think that when I was young, this wasn't even like a career. I don't think I could have ever even pictured myself doing anything. And so it's difficult too when I think about like, where do I see myself going? I think I feel so honored when I can be a part of somebody's journey for discovering Magic, or feeling welcome in the community, or being able to build something that resonates with them. I was recently told a story by a creator that I really admire that they had been into Magic, took a break, and then he was just getting back into Magic, was watching some gameplay videos, and actually my Myra the Magnificent Infinite Turns deck that I played on a CBH channel literally inspired him to get back into Magic. And it was just such it was such a funny moment of like, I can't believe that something that I feel passionately about, it extends past me. And so I think that if I could choose where I see myself going in the Magic sphere, is I would love to continue to be a part of people's journeys, whether that looks like something that I make, be it a cosplay or a video or a silly Instagram skit, inspires you to try something new, maybe try playing for the first time, maybe build a new deck, try a new format, then I would love that. I would love if my excitement could help bring other people excitement or joy in some way. And I think it probably comes from, being a former teacher and having my master's in teaching. I love to help. I love to teach. I love to mentor. And so those are all things that I would love to keep doing in this space. And I'm really happy that programs like the Ambassador Program and Wizards of the Coast has liked what I do enough to want to bring me on to make different videos or work with them in different ways, because I love that. I love getting to be a part of people's journeys, and I would like to keep doing that. And so again, I don't think it's fully in my control. I don't think I can be like, you have to listen to me and you have to try this game. Like, obviously not. But I do think that I've been so touched that most of my audience before I got into Magic was not into Magic. They followed me for other cosplays, be it princess cosplays, Star Trek cosplays, probably Star Trek, because that's what I was doing most of at the time. The fact that so many people in my community were like, okay, I'm gonna try it. Like, I'll have people come to events with Magic cards for me to sign. I'm like, oh, so you love Magic? They're like, no, I bought these because you cosplayed them and I wanted your signature. I was like, you what? Like, this is wild to me. But I feel so touched and so honored to be a part of their Magic journey, however that might look for them. And I would love to keep doing that.
Very nice. I like that. Yeah. Okay, so to kind of wrap up a little bit, whilst we're talking about the future, with the kind of roadmap for Magic that is laid out before us for this year, 2024, there's a lot of releases coming out. There's some Universes Beyond, some new update sets, and there's going to be a lot more secret layers. So I'm excited for what some of those will be. But yes, what are you?
Me too.
I'm hoping for some Fallout secret layers. I know we're doing a Universes Beyond, but I'm hoping for some secret layer Fallout stuff as well.
I'm sure they will.
I hope so. But what are you looking forward to, like in terms of new products coming out, new events that are coming up? Is there anything particular that's kind of caught your eye and you're excited about?
So we mentioned it briefly a little bit at the beginning, but Clue was one of my favorite board games when I was very young. My sister and I would rope our friends and family into playing with us because we loved Clue, and I love murder mysteries. My 29th birthday party, I made all my friends dress up for a 20s themed murder mystery because it was the end of my 20s. And so anyway, I love this. So Murders at Karlov Manor is something that I have been very excited for, and I'm really excited. Coming up soon in February, it will be MagicCon Chicago, and it is over my 30th birthday weekend. So I will turn 30 at MagicCon Chicago with Murders at Karlov Manor, and I am unbelievably excited. But actually, funny enough, 2 weeks before that, there's a Colorado Magic convention, and I am so excited. DreamHack Denver, put on by the Laughing Dragon, will be basically my hometown. Not quite. It's my home state. It's still like a little bit over an hour away, but it's much closer than many events. And so I'm really excited. Things in Colorado are incredibly spread out. And so I live in a teeny tiny little town pressed up against the mountain, but I'm reasonably close to this event, and that's rare. And so I'm thrilled. And so I'm like, yes, everybody come visit my state and we'll play Magic. And so I'm very excited for both those two events coming up in February. But for set-wise, there's just a lot to be excited about. You mentioned Fallout. I'm very excited for that. I think that'll be really fun. Murders at Karlov Manor, I'm really excited for. The Wild West set that's coming out. I mentioned I live in kind of a small Colorado town. I've got probably like 2 different horse ranches in my neighborhood. And I'm like, I might just go take photos over there. Like, are we going to do a bunch of Western things? And so I think there's a lot to be excited for with the cards and the events. And we discovered we might be at an event together this year, which is wildly exciting.
Yes. Magic on Amsterdam.
So there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. Awesome. I think it's going to be a good year for Magic. And yeah, there is definitely a lot to look forward to. Well, that's kind of everything I want to ask today. I don't want to go too deep into things because I'm sure there's a lot of questions people out there want to ask themselves. And on that note, where can people find you? Where's the best place to obviously you do YouTube content, but where's all the best places to find you and see your content and kind of interact with you and everything?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here. This is a good spot. You should, if you made it to the end here, you're fantastic. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. If you're looking for my work on the internet, you can find me everywhere at It's Anna Margaret. And so I make YouTube videos as well as Instagram and TikTok content. And so you can find me all those places.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for those watching, thank you for sticking around and hanging out with us while we discussed Anna's kind of journey into Magic and her continued success, which will keep going, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you all very much for hanging out with us and watching, and we'll see you all again for another Sit Down Saga and conversation soon. See you all later.
Bye. Thank you.